Hello and welcome everybody out there in D&D land to our second lore dump. This time it is Exandria's Adaptation coming in. Before we jump into the action, as per usual, we have a few short announcements that we have to make. Mirrored. Yeah, it is mirrored, isn't it? Damn it. I thought that would happen. Shit. Transform. That way. Yeah, that's a little better. Before we jump right into the action, we have a few short announcements we have to make. The first of which is, if you are watching this, you should give us a like on the video, comment down below anything you'd like about our adaptation of Exandria. It's been a very rough road trying to get it fitted into my universe and separated from that other universe that we don't talk about. But I feel very happy with where we're at with it, but maybe you don't. So leave a comment on the video. Let me know. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more about the lore dump. And if you want to join our community, please consider joining our Patreon, getting into our Discord discussions and learning about all of this stuff beforehand, as well as many, 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 many other lore dumps that are happening inside of this world as we speak. Now, everybody, we have some good news. Exandria is mostly the same. And I mean by far mostly the same. Things written inside of the book are staying true. Anything that happened in campaign 1 of Critical Role all the way up past the Chroma Conclave arc is canon. Vecna's part is not canon. There's reasons behind that. And campaign 2 is also not canon. We started running a Taldora game about 2 months before campaign 2 begun, so we just kept running with it, and because now we are running, I think, 3 or 4 games inside of Exandria, this is the way that we have it adapted to our world. So, of course, things are not staying true blue to the book. However, that is why we're having this discussion. I'm going to give you a lot of lore as to what has changed. So, first and foremost, all of the known deities of Exandria, we maintained their titles, but we removed their names because those are Faerun deities. And as our world is crafted and created, we do not utilize the Faerun deities at all. We have our own deity system, and many of them have their own adaptations, combinations, and relations that I have crafted myself. And that is so that there's still a little bit of lore and mystery for people to behold inside of the universe. There is a couple of deities that are still very similar to that entire system, though keep in mind their lore is vastly different. The first one is the Raven Queen. She's now the Queen of Ravens inside of this universe. Her story has similarities to that everybody's familiar with. However, this Queen of Ravens is actually a devoted worshiper of one of the tier 1 deities of the universe itself, Fendrick. And she was so devoted to her worship of Fendrick and wanting to help him that she actually aspired to becoming a goddess in order to assist the rest of the pantheon from the perspective of a humanoid, a mortal. So, that is her adaptation into all of this. Exandria was once a deity inside of this universe. She was the twin sister of Irene. And when Irene made her dutiful sacrifice in order to craft a world that can house many of the dangers that those that wish to topple down this universe wanted to do, her sister took it upon herself to do the same, but for different reasons. So, whenever you hear Exandria referred to, Exandria is Irene's sister, twin sisters. And she is dormant for the entire world. Druids and other more spiritually inclined individuals inside of Exandria are attuned to the fact that she is alive. and she is a living entity. The entire world itself is her. And you may have picked up on little bits of that, say when Sylvan in the Tal'Dorei stories was doing their intuition and trying to commune with nature and learn about aspects of everything around them. They have that connection to the existence of this deity because they are fully aware of who she is, but she is the most neutral of deities that could possibly exist. She simply gives them a place to be, and that is her limits of influence. She wants to live, she wants to exist, and she wants everybody to live there peacefully. Now, another deity that people have been dealing with inside of this world is the Wild Mother. The Wild Mother, depending on who you talk to, is either Irene or Exandria. So the adaptation is the two of them in one. That's important to keep in mind. It could be either one of the two, and that's why the Wild Mother does not speak to somebody directly, why she does not communicate to them directly. It is her purpose to stay out of everything, and she's either slumbering or no longer a sentient entity. All she is a force of nature that wishes to express the importance of continued existences of nature and individuals that work alongside her. The next thing that we should go on with is the Age of Arcanum is vastly different in the New Embrace universe. Now, in the book, they do go over the Age of Arcanum, how all of the most adapted wizards ever were known to exist during that time, and that is when many of the strongest of weaponry came into existence. A lot of that is the same. However, because we are leaning away from other lores that I could see the correlation between, especially the Netherese, we are having a different conversation, and we're learning about the Age of Arcanum inside of our Wednesday early game. So if you are interested in that, that's Mingled Dreams. They are people that are looking into things that happened before the calamity that may cause some everlasting effects. What I can tell you is, during the creation of Exandria, when she just crafted a mold of a world for herself and the entities that she wished to house inside of it, there were many individuals who came over from the other worlds. The orcs were among the first individuals to find their way over to Exandria. They enjoyed the fact that everything here was expressed in a way that meant adventuring was welcomed, exploration was welcomed. You being able to find any aspect of this known universe inside of Exandria was welcome. And because of that, all magical practices for Exandria emanated from the Age of Arcanum. But that was also the time period where travel was first coming over here. Among the first to travel here, and if you've watched the Tal'Dorei stories from part 1, you pick up on this. The first to have traveled over here were the deities from separate worlds. Now, all of the deities had influence in Solemn at some point, but for some reason, they were brought over to Exandria in order to influence this world. Now, this is prime deities and betrayer gods alike, that back then, all were created with a purpose from the higher pantheon. Many of them directly created by Aseso or any of her followers from the pantheon list. When all of them came over, there was obviously a power struggle between them. When you are an entity unrivaled by only, or rivaled by only 10 other entities or so, it's kind of difficult to convince them that they don't deserve more. And many of the deities thought that they did. And they adapted to different aspects of Exandria and created their own followings from the individuals that came there. Every entity that came into Exandria was adapted from orcs directly. Now, if you watched the part 1 of Lore Dump, you would learn how the adaptation actually works. It is when one of the original 3 created races find an aspect of life that they aspire to, and a say-so would give it to them and reshape them, if they so desire, into the image of life that they wish to uphold or seek. So if that is turning into an elf, turning into a furbolg, or anything else like that, she gave that to any entity from Solemn. Now, over here, many of the individuals were adapted by all of these tier 2 deities, which was something that, if they would have communicated a bit more with, would have left a much better taste in more people's mouths. Yeah, let's say it like that. Because the deities were in war with each other, as soon as they got following, or I'm sorry, they weren't at war, they were rivaling. War is for Zodiac. That one's always a war. But because they were always in conflict with one another, always opposing and competing with one another, they ended up adapting individuals more extremely to their own liking. For instance, the Stormlord thought it very important that people under their creation would have a stronger physique, a more dominant personality and prowess, and that is when they created many different individuals that would adapt into that. The Cloak Serpent did the same thing. Most individuals of reptilian creation were given that adaptation by the Cloak Serpent, and again, they were kept ignorant to the fact that you could choose what you wanted to look like. She chose what they would look like. And that's where a lot of bias emanated, because people would look at one another and have that instinctual barrier between them since they were unfamiliar with it. Exandria is such a large plane of existence that it took hundreds of years before individuals who traveled there began interacting with people outside of their direct domain. Now, during the Age of Arcanum, there were groups of individuals, particularly the ones that followed under Sirona, the Crystal One, or the Platinum Dragon, Brightbridge, the Allfather. Those individuals sought to try to make the world in unison with one another. And that was the beginnings of an organization that is known as the Ashari. Now, this is my adaptation of the Ashari. Keep in mind, it is not true blue to the story of Critical Role. What they are doing is marvelous and wonderful, but I wrote this before I knew what they were doing, and there's been a lot of lore suggestions that would add up to it. They wanted to open up exploration between the outer worlds and this world to everybody, so that everybody can join together, have a unity between one another, and exist on equal grounds. That is what they aspired to. Unfortunately, there was a bit of rivaling that boiled over even past that. Some of the deities did not believe that these other deities should be trying to make everything fair and equal for everybody, because there's no such thing as that in their minds. And that is where the calamity begun. The Ashari were the first line of defense, trying to save this realm and trying to save travel to outside worlds as best as they possibly could. Now, unfortunately, the amount of animosity that had built up during this era created a lot of tension between the different entities and deities that existed there. And many individuals died. Many of the known pantheon were separated into different worlds where they could no longer have that influence or impact. Nobody's quite sure why the betrayer gods betrayed the prime deity and pantheon so very much. That is a lore that I am not going to be dumping on all of you. It's something that you're going to have to discover from the games. But it definitely did not seem like all of them were thinking on the right mindset, especially for the mindsets that they were created to have and the domains that they were created to adhere to. So, another interesting part about the Calamity was that was actually the creation of the Queen of Ravens. When there was a vacuum of representation from individuals who didn't want to die, but knew that it was a necessity, and didn't want this war to rage against everybody, there was one mortal, whose name I'm not going to reveal yet, who took it upon herself to ascend to godhood. She discovered all of the secrets because she was unparalleled in her intellect. She learned exactly how to do it, and through the sacrifice of many individuals that wanted that mortal representation among the pantheon, she came to power. Now, many of the deities, including Prime, are still incredibly upset with her for doing this. She didn't really break a rule, but they felt like there was a rule broken because, well, you're immortal, you're not supposed to be a deity. We're supposed to take care of you, you're not supposed to take care of us. And she understood that that's not the way it should be. People need to be held responsible for their actions, but there needs to be a proper process for all of this. And when she came to this full power, the two deities that assisted her inside of this, the Knowing Mistress and the Everlight. Those two deities were the ones that helped her ascend to her power. And, of course, outside of Exandria, it was Fendrick who assisted her to ascend to that type of power and that type of ability. Once she was there, she was the deciding factor between Prime and Betrayer to see which side had the most power that could actually help. There was one more Betrayer waiting in the wings who revealed itself to Exandria during the most crucial of times that was transpiring during the Calamity, when war had ravaged through all of Exandria and had nearly decimated the population of people from before the Age of Mortality. Which, if you want to know what the Age of Mortality is, that's going to have to be another lore dump. But, anyways, with all of those lives gone, this new entity joined the Betrayers. And it was with a very heavy heart that only one of Exandria's deities was powerful enough to make a sacrifice of themselves to expel that entity from this world. Now people can come up with their own ideas as to who that is. That's your business, not mine. You can do whatever you want. I'm not going to confirm or deny who is, but, have fun with it, people. Enjoy yourselves. But, anyways, the Knowing Mistress had to sacrifice herself. She suffered unimaginable wounds from this entity inside of the battle. However, they managed to chain it down and expel it from Exandria. And instead of just pushing it into the endless void out above, that was the time that Exandria decided to safeguard the world she created and named after herself, and when her twin sister sacrificed herself to give this entity a place where it had to stay. So, Irene was created to capture this entity, and to keep it there and to associate it with other places so that it was no longer a threat to the rest of creation. Now, this is about the time where I'm going to open up for any questions. If any of you have them, please go ahead and ask me that Twitch chat. We're just chilling right now, but you're more than welcome to ask anything you would like. Ogun's good. All right, nobody else is speaking up, so yeah, that's going to be the end of this lore dump. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like the video, leave us a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on more of this. Thank you all very much, and have a great day.